focused on recovering from a spiritual war.
High Priest Kwatamani, Supreme Soothsayer, Soul Seer, Spiritual Healer and Revealer, Chief Elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis Tribe, the oldest, longest sustained, raw and living, plant fuel consuming, family community order known over half a century and still going strong.
And it's absolutely no way for that recovery to manifest unless we are able to gather the mental, physical, and spiritual consciousness of the sacred ancestral male to get him to the point of breaking the codes of that vibration of self-centered individualism, to break the codes of that mindset that actually focuses on conquest, domination, control, and rule. And it's encoded in him. It is encoded within his mental consciousness. We are talking about all the stuff that was stuffed down into that subconscious mental state of existence that continues to surface every time it's triggered. And the triggers are all over the place. And we have to be able to establish a sense of higher peace conscious thought and reasoning in action within that masculine consciousness, or we are not going to recover nothing. The masculine he is divinely and innately responsible for providing divine guidance and protection over the women and the children. And if he's not in place, if he's not on a total holistic living focus, divine, social, economic, family, communal recovery is not going to happen, because she, the feminine essence, the birthplace of man, he and she, will be left stuck and stagnant, stranded, and there's no ands, ifs, and buts about it. That oppositional energy appears to be winning so far. But we're here. We're here in divine order, wholeness of masculine and feminine energy, because neither he nor she, separated, isolated, divided, can do this thing alone. Today is a celebration of a grandson within our sacred ancestral rainforest jungle sanctuary. And we're actually putting energies of recovery into every ounce of his consciousness, because he's the masculine he, and we know full well what has went into his DNA. We know what has went into his subconscious thoughts and reasoning. And we know when dealing with this recovery nature of energy that each and every parent must be focused on recognizing the level of toxic energy that has been infused into his and her consciousness, that nature that has to be detoxed.
When it rain, it pour. Time to get deep into the core to see things one has been taught to ignore.
Research indicates that the conscious mind, also known as the thinking or rational mind, is responsible for awareness of the present moment, decision-making, problem-solving, and logical reasoning. It's estimated to account for about 5 to 10% of the brain's processing power. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, encompasses a vast, interconnected network of thoughts, emotions, memories, experiences, and patterns that operate beneath conscious awareness. This unconscious realm is thought to comprise about 90 to 95% of the brain's processing power.
You see what happens? We tend to think that we're just who we are and what we are. We have behaviors that we can't even account for within our conscious mindset, simply because we forget that the consciousness is just the top layer of your reasoning, and that the mass majority of every thought and every reason, even your actions, are actually encoded within that subconscious. Those things that have been kind of packed and stored away over generations and even into lifetimes, re-encoded through the mother spirit who birthed you and the father who ejaculated that energy into her. When we think about all those dreadful experiences that has adversely affected the ancestral consciousness of man, he and she, The one thing that we must come to realize is that every effect is encoded within the subconsciousness of our existence. Therefore, each and every being adversely affected that do not detox, purge, and heal those matters of fact are actually walking around with ghosts and goblins and demons of the dead that follow one to work, to school, and to bed, adversely affecting the consciousness up inside one's head. Therefore, detoxing, purging, and healing is an absolute necessity, or one will simply become a sum total of that oppositional nature. They will become it, and it will become them. We forget that all of that actually can kind of hold us into a prison unless we're able to simply acknowledge the fact that, okay, in order to detox, purge, and heal, we got to go through the root, foundation, and base of every thought, every reason, and every action that we take, to look at it and to focus on getting the premium nature of energy, higher peace, conscious nature energy out of every single thought, reason, and action. That takes a lot of focus. This was made to appear to be impossible. But it is not, because we have the brain power to do so. In order to fuel that brain power, we then must begin to comprehend why we are children of the sun. As children of the sun, we must recover the divinity that is our essence, and that we must recover our holistic living frame of thought and reasoning and action. Therefore, we must focus on whole life consumption of the fruits of the tree of life. You see, the tree of life consciousness is not simply just a manifestation to talk about a tree. We know that the tree provides us with oxygen. We know it provides us with fuel. We know that it helps to cool the planet. We know that the tree of life is encoded within our existence, that we're simply like a branch of the tree of life. And therefore, when we go down to the root, foundation, and base, we can then begin to look at why it is very important for us to comprehend what has happened before, what is happening now, so we will be able to see where we need to go to make the best of the best of the best of happenings to manifest for the generation next. The focus must be to comprehend, to understand that we are on a spiritual soul journey movement. Our connections with our generation is simply a way of our soul journey movement manifesting. We have an objective. It doesn't mean that that objective is going to manifest right here, right now, these 10 minutes, 15, this hour, this particular years. No, no, no. It means that we must continue that holistic living soul journey as a way of life. It must be encoded in the offsprings. But it is not going to be encoded in the offspring until he, the masculine presence, cease to honor a nature of energy that keeps him in a state of conflict, confusion, and chaos all the days of his life, that have him as a partner in crime, where sexual violation and violence, war, is the intent. In order for that to happen, he must first dig in and recognize that, hey, first and foremost, brother man, you birthed from feminine she. Therefore, your holistic living duty, obligation, and responsibility is to her. When we say God, maybe we're talking about God, and that the male has to be the guiding force. He has to give divine guidance and protection to the feminine essence. She, the goddess, who actually birthed all that we be. When it all comes into the womb of her existence, woo! Ah, that's a beautiful thing if we can go forward and begin a whole life healing process. We don't have to go through all this nonsense. We know that it has been nonsense perpetuated by those who got lost in blighted mindset reasoning. We know that. And we cannot continue to uphold and maintain blighted reasoning and thinking and actions and really give any kind of hope or vibration that we're going to continue to exist. It's self-destruction. Simply because the nature of self is incomplete, unwhole, incomplete energy. It is that bonded union, divine union of masculine and feminine energy that is the wholeness of our existence. And we got to heal that. Because right now we have individuals coming together and they producing little teeny weeny individuals again and again. And it is headed for a fatal attraction to self-destruction. In order for us to pull our whole life energy together again and to move our vibrations of thought and reason and action away from that toxic nature, we're going to have to dig into that subconscious thinking and reasoning and action. And we're going to have to begin to look at how we behave. We have to look at those reactions. We have to begin to look at the fact that, hey, wait a minute, why is it that this man or this woman cannot reason with the fact that what is in your conscious thinking about what was said is not what's in this person's conscious reasoning about what was said. Although what was said came out of your mouth and you feel like you're righteous about it, you got to recognize that those ears over here is hearing that, and it's based upon what's within the subconscious energies of that being. And if we can just really comprehend, then we can kind of get to a point where we really work to make sure that we're having holistic living communications between each other. Otherwise, what will happen is the same thing that's been happening over and over again.
I certify to you that with the help of God, we shall powerfully enter into your country and shall make war against you in all ways and manners that we can.
Self-righteous feel so righteous about what they're doing. We're coming up on your land.
And we shall take away your goods and shall do you all the mischief and damage that we can as to vassals who do not obey and refuse to receive their Lord and resist and contradict him. And we protest that the deaths and losses which shall accrue from this are your fault.
Turn you out. We know that's insanity. We know that that is vicious and cruel and out of sync and out of focus with the holistic living essence of life and supreme love. It has nothing to do with higher peace consciousness. However, for those who got put into that bind and that masculine heat, got torn away and burnt and destroyed and etc., and then those invaders began to ejaculate their energies into that feminine essence, by hook or by crook or any other way that that energy was ejaculated, either by those captives that they turn out and put into a whole different frame of reasoning and then sent them back in to do the job for them. The basic reality is this. Toxic insanity spread like a plague. Through who? The feminine essence, the mother she. Is she to blame? Well, that nature energy say anything that happens, you're the fault, you're to blame. So then she's looked upon as the bringer of sin. Who do you think they were talking to when they said, we're going to take your women and your children? Was he not talking to the male? And the sin is the nature of that toxic disorder that intruded and invaded upon her consciousness under the will of their subconscious energy that they call God. And what is our job, our duty, obligation, our responsibility? First, we need to focus on being alive, brothers. Then we need to focus on recognizing that we don't have time to be wrestling with somebody's subconscious reality.
Quote, new pathways of whole life energy can be received once one has cleared out the subconscious baggage that amasses from past memories of toxic consumption. These memories remain encoded with hurt, fear, shame, guilt, and other lower and lesser energies. End of quote. Page 170. From the Osarian Sacred Ancestral Temple of Christ, Whole Life Healing Through Plant-Based Consumption by High Priest Kwatamani.
We have to work with healing our own subconscious reality so we can have a greater sense of conscious energy about what we do on a daily basis to safeguard the women and the children, because we got to get them back. Now, we can't go and collect those who that energy said, don't mess with mine and I won't mess with yours. We got to find out where ours are at. And we have a heck of a situation. It's not only a puzzle. This is a mamma jamma. But we cannot get anything done until we can first look inside of our own mental state of thought and reasoning and action as a masculine presence and recognize the level and degree of toxic energy that has been infused upon us. When we think about all those dreadful experiences that has adversely affected the ancestral consciousness of man, he and she, the one thing that we must come to realize is that every adverse effect is encoded within the subconsciousness of our existence. Therefore, each and every being adversely affected that do not detox, purge, and heal those matters of fact are actually walking around with ghosts and goblins and demons of the dead that follow one to work, to school, and to bed, adversely affecting the consciousness up inside one's head. Therefore, detoxing and purging and healing is an absolute necessity, or one will simply become a sum total of that oppositional nature. They will become it and it will become them. That's why so many of those youth men out there at war with each other. That's why you see so many brethren hanging out on the street playing this game and that game and ha-ha and flopping all over the place and act like I don't know what, because they don't have that holy living consciousness and reason in their actions again. After generations and generations and generations and generations, we got to begin to comprehend where the masculine he must be and where the feminine she must be, and we must begin to recognize that, okay, we got some work to do, and we're going to have to, for the sake of our most supreme ancestral essence, the essence of who we be, we're going to have to devote our whole life energy to something greater than a culture that opposes our existence. We're going to have to focus our energy on whole life energy. We have to put a focus on resurrecting green earth solar conscious thought and reasoning in action. We are going to have to focus on resurrecting divine social, economic, family, community order. But in order for us to do that, we're going to have to focus on the essence of who we be as man, he, and or she. We have to work to the point of understanding each other and recognizing that the conscious expressions that we have is only 10% of what's coming out of our nature of energy if we use that as a measuring tool. In fact, all of that has impacted that being from that parent, foreparent, grandparent, great-great-grandparent, and all that teaching, all that stuff that went on inside those various schools, those religious centers, and all those other things that have actually impacted who that person has come to be. We have to realize that, okay, it's very difficult to even attempt to change who that person has come to be. So where are we at now? This is a spiritual war, and we're talking about whole life recovery. We're going to have to focus our energies on, it's so simple, the resurrecting nature of a sacred few of the 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 few who can feel this, who can feel it in their heart, gut, and soul, and who know that, wow, something is resonating with I, can feel that ancestral calling, can feel that sense of this is real, can come to the vibration of knowing that, wait, there's something inside of me that's really making I feel like, wow, this is something we need to do. That's where the focal point must be. It is not to disregard others, but there need to be holistic living example. And the objective has been to prevent the rise of green earth solar conscious examples. Let's take it like that. Now, what's our challenge? We have to comprehend that life is for the living, for giving to the generation next. We have to come to the holistic reality that, wait, we are soul, whole, living energy. And that the essence of who we be, being soul, means that we have to come to realize that we're far beyond simple body of flesh. That's simply our nature of movement. And we have to get enough confidence to realize that there's much more to our existence that meet the eye of what we see on a superficial and surface presentation of who we think somebody else be, or even who somebody think that we be. Then we must begin to comprehend holistic living communications. We need to take time and have a lot more patience with each other, a lot more tolerance, a lot more humility. We need to take time and have a lot more love for the movement forward into divine order. And when we see those sacred and precious ones really struggling to move in the essence of divine order, we need to be more tolerant and recognize that even a half an ounce of movement is a tremendous amount of movement if one has been impacted with a nature that diametrically opposes his or her existence. And that just the vibration of having enough soul energy somewhere deep down in that subconscious vibration of one's existence is enough to inspire us to reach for something greater. And we have to comprehend that we cannot force this upon anyone. Those who are, let's say, stuck and stagnant inside of that place where they have come to glorify their physical presence as all they be, and that as a result of that, they are going to worship and idolize things and stuff and material gain, and ain't nothing you're going to be able to do about that. You're wasting your life, energy, if that is your focus. What we have to focus on, it's a holistic living presence of our existence. We're not saying, no, you don't focus on having a house to live in, and we don't focus on being able to have something to occupy our system, like making sure we have proper clothes or that we use phones to communicate. We're not talking about all that peripheral things. We're talking about whatever that we manifest within our physical presence as man, he, and she must be used for the acceleration of holistic living consciousness. That we must focus on resurrecting divine order inch by inch by inch, because the destabilization occurred inch by inch by inch. We have to recognize that just as there were requirements to destabilize our existence by that opposing nature energy that used its force and deadly destruction and blood spill and thrill of the kill to destabilize us, we have to use a love supreme, peaceful movements of conscious expressions. We must use the holistic living energies of the fruits of the tree of life. We must utilize that sacred garden culture presence if we wish to resurrect that sacred garden culture nature of thinking and reasoning and action. It's simple, and we have to get real simple about this. So we're not saying that we do not need to have an attraction to each other as man, he, and she. We're saying that that attraction must come holistic, and that the primary energy of that attraction must be that soul-to-soul relationship. And that anything other than that is only going to be temporary. It's only going to be long enough where one began to explore the superficial and surface presence of that being, that physical body. And then it's off to the races. And then it's back to that nature of energy that actually was encoded within the consciousness, subconsciousness of that being. And you don't know what's in that subconsciousness until you wear out the conscious expression, and the conscious vibration that is manifested is all superficial and surface. You know, you talk sweet and this, that, and etc. All that's your conscious reasoning that's going on. And then all of a sudden, something happens, boom, and something happens, strike this and this, boom, and then you fool around and reach into that subconscious. You don't even know it. It just manifests. Each and every being adversely affected that do not detox, purge, and heal those matters of fact are actually walking around with ghosts and goblins and demons of the dead that follow one to work, to school, and to bed, adversely affecting the consciousness up inside one's head. It's like a possessive energy. It is a possessive nature of energy. That's why it needs to be cleaned out, and we need to reinfuse our subconsciousness with holistic living energies of higher peace and love and respect and dignity and humility. And that is very difficult because it's been impacted with all that toxicity that was invaded upon us and intruded upon us as a living being, and then told to us that it is our fault. So now it's accepted within the subconscious as the reality of that being. And we need to break those codes. And I want to make this a primary communication, and I want one to take time. Please take time and listen very carefully, because the encodes are there. The encodes have to be placed very, very strategically so that the vibrations of assistance that you will need to resurrect higher peace, conscious thought and reasoning and actions, to clean out that level of toxicity that has been infested in your subconscious reasoning. Because we are on a cleanup campaign. Soul to soul, bonded nature of energy. We're not talking about in love, like the physical hips and thighs and eyes and hair and all that other stuff that simply is what that person came with physically. We're talking about what that person came with mentally and working to get that cleared out, and the rest of it will manifest in divine order if we put the proper fuel back in. So it's not just to take it out. It's got to be inch by inch, inch by inch, inch by out, in, out, in, out, in, pushing that love supreme energy, pushing that higher peace nature of reasoning. And we have to comprehend, we got to be patient and tolerant. We have to recognize that it is not an overnight venture, and it is not simply a generational venture. It's a venture much longer than that. But we have to commit our holistic living essence to accomplishing this mission. And we must recognize that failure is not an option. Then we can connect to the soul-to-soul essence of who we be. Then it becomes something you can feel good about. And you know that it's a struggle. And you know the struggle continues. And you know power concedes nothing without a struggle. But you know that failure is not an option. And therefore, there is nothing greater than whole life energy, living, resurrecting, growing, developing, emerging energy like a tree. But then, as I say, we are a reflection of the tree of life. You can't do it alone. This is why we're calling for the holistic living resurrection of the most supreme, seen and unseen essence of masculine guiding and protection in divine order, to infuse nurturing and affection in divine order, so that we can and do go forward and multiply the greater essence of who we be, soul to soul. Divine social, economic, family, community order. Yes, we're calling up on it, and we're calling up on it, and we're calling up on it, and failure is not an option.
This code is sent to penetrate and to activate the heart of femininity. And he who loves the essence of she, encoded in the I, and so it be. Birthed into the Kwatamani first Genesis family tree conditionally. Prophecy, Ma'at